So what's one habit you protect on your worst week that everyone else drops first?
On my worst week, and I've had some really bad weeks, bad because of, staffing dynamics, bad because of financial dynamics, bad because of public conflict dynamics, bad because of legal dynamics. The one thing that I never drop is I always take my days off. So
Mm,
typically, I think what happens for people is when these bad weeks come, it's like, okay, that's the time that I got to go home, say, sorry, wife, kids, bad week, dad's got to focus, can't take the time off. And what I've realized in my leadership, I've been leading things for, I don't know, probably, gosh, 30 years, 25 years. Bad weeks aren't seasons. In some respects, every week can become a bad week.
yeah.
So I've kind of backed off of the idea that like hard times come in seasons and realize like life is just hard and leading is hard. And I will not be able to run the marathon if I don't take my days off as my like aid stations. So it doesn't matter if I got a lawyer, and I've had this breathing down my neck, trying to call me 10 p.m. We got to get this sorted out. No, we can talk about the day after next. No one's gonna fall apart. The tension's still going to be there, the opposition's still going to be there, and so I always, I kind of protect that because that does a couple things. It kind of keeps my kids and my family knowing like, yeah, dad's at work and dad works hard, but like everyone, dad's got days off too. And dad's home by this time, and if in the event that like I have to do some work, if you will, it's going to be like I'll pay the price if I have to and work like later at night. So just so that I'm like home, dinner's around the table, carting kids to sports, I'm at the game, phone's down, I'm not missing the goal getting shot or the catch being caught, and then I have my friends and my community and my day off. So that feels counterintuitive, I think, to some leaders, especially kind of young leaders. It's like, no, that's the time you got to be at. It's like, well, now I've been on the block long enough. I'm like, there's always the time you got to be in. So if you don't protect that, I just don't drop it. And I know maybe that's people think that's bad, but I just found that like, when I've let my time off get sucked up, it hasn't sped anything along any faster. It didn't resolve any faster. It didn't like still there. So, and again, as I've seen opposition more as just like life and less as a season, I'm like, I just got to be in this for the grind. So, yeah, I would say
Yeah.
that I fiercely protect my days off. I mean, it won't. I mean, even when things are going well, and I'm like, oh, it's just so fun. We're doing this remodeling. I just want to buzz down to the office and see what's going on. It's like, no, it's my day off. So I'm not going down there, as best as I can. Of course, there's times where it's like, I got to, I just want to look.
Yeah.
But then I make sure I roll up to the office and I don't look presentable. So I won't find myself standing around wanting to be with people. But yeah, I kind of protect those.
Well, Matt, I mean, the thing is like you said something like that life is hard, leading is hard. That is not, it is not a season. It's like, yes, some are harder than others, but there's always some fire to put out, something to do. And when you think that you're just in a season of, oh, I just got to grind right now, that becomes the habit.
That's
And that
right.
becomes the norm, right?
That's
I mean,
right.
there were certain things I used to fiercely protect, and then I'm like, I put do a meeting here or there, and now that
Mm.
thing that I used to fiercely protect is just it feels irreversible. It feels like,
Yep.
how could I go back? I remember having a friend being like, "How do you not work on the weekends?" I'm like, "Oh, because I've never worked on the weekends. I don't do
Yeah.
it. I'm not going to
Yes.
do it. I got to
That's
have a
right.
couple of days
That's right.
off." They're like, "Oh, I want to grow up and
That's
be
right.
like you." I'm like, "No, you could do it right now. Actually, this is a
That's
habit
right.
of yours." The other thing is,
That's right.
you think that when you're going through something really hard that you're like, "Oh, I just got to work more." But what's interesting about
Mm.
that is there are plenty of scientific studies about how like the diminishing return of additional hours of work, you actually need to zoom out and get your mind clear and go do something physical. Maybe go do a like go for a swim or go for a run or something like that,
Yep.
or go for a walk with no AirPods in and be totally unproductive in air quotes, right? Like don't listen to a book, don't listen to a podcast, go pray and just think and be bored maybe in order
Yeah,
to find that epiphany or that solution. And my joke's always like, your good ideas are where? On the toilet or in the shower,
yeah,
right?
that's
Like
right.
your really great
I am
ideas aren't behind the camera. They're not behind the screen.
no, I'm definitively a poor leader when I think I have to grind harder,
Mm,
because when I think I have to grind harder, then I get more tired, I get more anxious, I get shorter with my communication, I get more irritable, and in the end, leadership is about your team. So if you're showing up because I got to grind harder, but you're showing up in a poor way, then they're more disconnected. And now you're being even less effective in what you think you're grinding harder to do. So it just doesn't work, because now again, if you are, an author and you're writing books and you got to grind out a dozen chapters, well, you're by yourself. I get that. But if we're talking about leading people towards a goal, you're grinding harder. It is giving you a false sense of accomplishment, and you're not getting it, because when you take a step back, you allow your team to step in. When you take a step back as leader, you're allowing your team to step up. And when you grind harder, you just become you start doing I start doing their jobs for them more, and then that doesn't help them. It doesn't help me, and so I have to keep balance. Now, as a leader, sometimes you do have to go, hey, I asked you to do this. I didn't communicate correctly. Now we're under pressure. Let me jump in and show you what I meant. So there are times like that, but that's like a rare. It's like I got to jump in, show what I meant. Okay, now it's my job as leader to back myself out of that and make sure they understand what I meant, and then they can run with it. But yeah, if we're talking about like writing books or like, doing an individual thing, I get it. But when you're leading people, it just it I don't know. I've never seen it be more effective in the long term of what we're trying to accomplish.
yeah. So one thing that I'm obsessed about is like this. The root of all that is fear. It's
Yeah.
fear that you're not gonna be able to make it, fear that you're not gonna get the job done, fear that if you don't step in on a Saturday and check on the contractor, that he's gonna mud the wrong wall, and now we're gonna have all these problems, right? Fear, 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 fear. And then this phrase that we use here, which is you cause what you protect. And so a
Mhm,
leader that's like, oh, I gotta grind really hard so that I
mhm.
can lead really well and get the work done. And guess what? Like you just said, they're actually frazzled, burnout, tired, stressed. And so they're trying to protect their leadership, but are actually causing it to be even worse. They're like, oh, if I don't show up
Yes.
on a Saturday and I don't do these things, I'm not going to be a good leader. And because of that, they're not a good leader.
Yes, that's right. They
Yeah,
become known as the micromanaging, controlling person that's basically saying, "You're here, but you're just a proxy for me, and ultimately, I'm gonna do it all." And they're not leading anybody, essentially. So, yeah, yeah. And I think growing your leadership is finding that blend. I could see, like, in my 20s in leadership, I was that guy, but then you start losing your staff and you realize, oh, I need to learn a different way of doing this because here I am by myself again. And then you go, I'm not going to be that guy. I'm going to be anyone can do anything. And then people are confused, lost, and no one's accomplishing anything. You're like, well, that's not working either. So there's got to be a way that I can lead with purpose and direction while also caring, and benefiting from those I'm leading, not just their hands, but their head and their heart. And that's probably, I think you could read about that stuff in books, but you probably just need to be in leadership and mature in that. That's why I think, let young leaders run as fast as possible so they can get to all those breaking points sooner. Because for leaders, I find that they have to get to the breaking point to learn the better way. I mean, the goal of like people like you, your job is like, well, let me help you not get there. But at the same level, you're like, as a coach, you're kind of like, let me be alongside you so I can be there because you're gonna get there. So let me walk alongside you. So when you get there, we can flip this thing faster because you'll be able to learn off of my experience than trying to like, trudge through the darkness of the failure. But yeah, if a leader can figure that out sooner than later, I mean, that's going to set them up to be able to be way more effective as they continue in their leadership.
100%. Well, what's one thing your team would say about how you lead that would surprise people that are outside of your organization?
I think it's interesting. This is a good question only because it came up just recently, and it actually maybe took me by surprise because it's maybe not who I always perceived myself to be. But in a closed room setting, there were a couple of my staff, and my wife was in the meeting, and the other woman and people in the room didn't know that it was my wife. And so they were having just like pre-casual conversations about
This is
my
before you
leadership.
got it. This is before you got in the room.
I never even went into the room. I found this out from my wife after.
This is
And
great. You got a
so,
mole.
yeah, so she said, we went to this meeting and there were a couple of your key staff, and then there were some other volunteers, and they not all of them knew that I was your wife. And I thought it was interesting because I could hear them chatting about you while I was there. And it's interesting. And one thing that they said, so again, my role is I'm a lead pastor of a church here in California. There's a constant pressure as a lead pastor to, I think, create a persona that people want to follow. And it's not a bad persona. It's just, when you got to publicly communicate clearly 4 times a week in front of people, and you got to lead creatively and strategically, it just becomes the kind of feels like you then begin to feel like it rests on me, because ultimately you're not selling a product, and it's not easy to go like, whoa, the P&L is this month, so what do we got to do to get the P up? It's like, well, no, people are giving because they want to give or not give. And so it's just it creates this really interesting dynamic. And I've been really, I've always done my best, and I haven't really had to try hard to just be who I am regardless, and not let the pressures of that shape who I am. And so I know what I'm good at, and I know what I'm not good at. Anyways, long story short, they said something about me that I thought was really endearing and maybe didn't think people would say. And they essentially were saying, wow, Matt's a different kind of lead pastor, because he doesn't always need to be the one seen as leading.
Mm.
And I thought, well, first I thought, well, my first reaction, if I'm honest, was like, am I backing off too much? Do I need to do more? Like, what does that mean? And then they said, well, they said, and it's his humility, where he doesn't feel like he needs to champion himself or be out in front. And so other staff are seeing more than him. And then I thought, crap, maybe I'm doing this all wrong. Like genuinely, my first reaction was failure, because I'm like, what do you mean other staff are seen? Maybe other staff are seen as leading the church, and I'm not the one seen as leading the church. You think maybe that guy's leading the church? No, that was like, I didn't ever told that to my wife, but I'm telling that to you. That was my internal first, like, my first reaction, my first, selfish reaction was, am I doing something wrong that people think that the lead pastor is so humble that other people are seen as lead pastor, not him? But then I thought about it a little bit and thought, well, that's the aim. The aim is that if you're leading well, it's not about you. It's about everybody else. And you're pulling them up, lifting them up and pushing them out and coaching them. And it's better to be seen as someone from behind the scenes
Yeah.
than not. And so what I think some of my staff might say is that I definitely am who I am on the stage and off. But because of that, I'm not preaching to get the reel. I'm not presenting something to get the attention. I want our church to be known for who we are because of who our people are. And that often puts me, while up front, of course, a lot, but doing my best work probably behind the scenes. Now, would every staff say that? I don't know. I haven't sat down and asked my staff, but that is something that came up recently. And I thought my reaction to it was interesting, but I think that's the ultimate goal. I mean, I think, and I'm just being honest because that's who I am. Maybe if I was lying, I'd be like, and look at how great everything I've aimed to be. No, my first reaction was panic. Like, wait, I'm not in control? You don't see, do I need to like make sure do I need to slide before every service that says lead pastor Matt? Because I don't do that. I always make sure that it just says pastor whoever. I work hard to make sure that there's level ground at the foot of the cross, which it sounds
Yeah.
like it's working. But then I'm like, is that what I really want? But yeah, ultimately it is, because, I think, Tim Keller puts it, I think in his book, Every Great Endeavor, I think it was, a brilliant book. Every
Mm.
leader should read it. It's about work being your worship. But he said that, you're in your life, you're painting like this leaf of your life. Your whole life is this painting this beautiful leaf. And then when you get to heaven, you get to see that leaf as a part of this massive tree that God
Mm.
was painting. So it's about serving what the Lord's doing and doing the best of my part, but also that it would continue on, and my staff would begin painting leaves and would continue to move forward. I mean, I one of the things I'm working on right now at our church is a succession plan for myself. And people are like, Matt, you're 48. Like, this is kind of prime time pastoral life. And I'm like, yeah, but what are churches known for being the worst at? Probably alongside church hurt, transitions of pastors.
Yeah.
And I want it to be the best one we could ever have, because it's not our church, it's the Lord's church, it's his gathering, not mine. And so then I think I need to lead in that way. And I don't think that that is a way of leading just in a church setting. I think that's a way of leading. And I think in any type of leading, that's the best way of leading. So
Yeah. Dude,
now, again,
Matt, that's huge.
if you did a survey of my staff, would they all say that again? I don't know. But I think it was interesting that my wife caught that, in the anonymous moment of chatter. And, I thought my reaction was interesting as well.
That's good, man. So you said a couple things that are really, really interesting that I want to make sure we underscore. So I remember listening to a kind of a mega church pastor, and somebody was asking him, how do you not have these like moral failures that are really public that, a lot of mega church pastors seem to have? He goes, oh, it's really simple. I remind myself every day to stay small in my own eyes,
And that's
and
it.
that I'm
Yeah,
and that I'm a joke without Jesus.
that's
And I've
good.
never forgotten that,
Yeah,
right? And so
yeah.
that's really what you're talking about. And then you said about painting your leaf and then your staff's painting their leaves. That's multiplication. That's discipleship. Like that's our job as leaders. Like our leaders is to bear fruit and their fruit bears fruit. Our job is to
Mhm.
do exactly what you're talking about. And so you don't have this sort of main character syndrome where you're like, "Oh, I got to have the spotlight on me. I'm the guy. This is what I did." It's like, "No, this is not actually what you did."
Mm.
Like we're not doing it. We're not doing any of this. I was just joking with
Yeah.
a friend the other day about how I don't know about your house, man, but in my house when the kids are fighting and they're like, "Oh, it's my bed. Get out of my room. This is my stuff." I'm like, "Ha ha ha."
Yes.
I'm like, "This is none of this is yours. I let you borrow my stuff.
Yeah.
This is my stuff."
Yeah. Yeah. That's
Like, no,
right.
no, no, no. You're
Yeah.
borrowing my stuff. And
That's right.
I feel like God's like that with us. He's like, "Oh, Matt, your
Mm,
church, that's funny. This is
that's
not your
funny.
church. I'm letting you
No,
borrow my church. These are my
that's
people. These
right.
aren't your people. You're
That's right.
stewarding my people." And so
That's
when we
right.
can remember that, I mean, that's like what a testament to the success of like people being like, "So who is the lead pastor here?" "Oh, I don't really know. I think it's this
Yeah.
guy. Might be this guy. I'm not really sure."
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's success, man.
Yeah. I think they literally had to say, well, who teaches the most? It's funny.
Very
So,
cool.
yeah.
Last question for you, man. What's a decision you make differently now than you did 3 years ago?
3 years ago, a decision I make now is that my significance is not in what I do, it's in who I am.
Mm,
What I mean by that is what you do is like your business card. What you do is, when you walk into a room, it's the most common question when you meet new people. So what do you do? And our world kind of revolves around that. Like my significance is in what I do. So then what happens is then you're striving to do more, and to do more then gets confused with who you're supposed to be. So then all of a sudden, as you're trying to do more, then you're trying to be more. And it took me a long time to figure this out, but that that's exhausting. Like, and there's no end to it. So I don't know, probably 3 years ago, I did a series worth, and it was probably, I mean, I did it for my church, but it landed more for me. That the greatest gift that came at Christmas was Jesus to save us from our significance having to be in the things we do, and our significance now being in who he says we are.
yeah.
And so that was huge for me because that's where freedom is then. It's like, well, Christ saves you, this is, well, what is Christ saving from hell? Well, yeah, but what's hell today? Because he's not just concerned with like the eternal life. Like, what's hell? Because then he wouldn't have came and walked on earth. What's hell today? Hell today is me striving to define myself by what I do. If he's come to save me from that and set me free, then he has to give me something different. And he has. He's saying your significance is no longer found in the things that you do. It's in what I did on the cross. That, I see you so valuable that I would give my life for you. And you only know value by what someone's willing to pay for it. You might think your company's the most valuable thing in the world, but unless someone's willing to pay that price, it's not that valuable. It only comes down to
Yeah.
what someone's willing to pay. He obviously sees that my life was so valuable to him to give his life for me. So if I can find my significance there first, then it doesn't matter what I do. I could be a lead pastor. I could be an entrepreneur. I could have tons of money. I could clean toilets. I could vacuum floors. I could stack chairs because that doesn't determine my significance. My significance is what he's done for me. And then with that, I've also learned then let my soul get its bread, not from what I do either, then from him as well. So then how does that look then to have my soul sustained, not just by what I'm doing, but my soul sustained by what Christ has done for me? So again, I
Mhm.
know, Pete, you work with all kinds of leaders that work in spaces that are sacred and secular. I would venture to say that from my worldview, all spaces are sacred, and there's no
Yeah.
split at all. But I know for some that maybe are listening, they're thinking, well, I don't know if the connection is there to me. Well, I think any leader can identify the connection being that your significance is wrapped up in what you do. And I would submit that if you would consider what Christ presents to every leader, he would say that I can give you the thing that satisfies your deepest desire, which would allow you to show up in a leader in a way that you've never been able to show up before. Because then if it's not found in what I'm doing, then it doesn't matter what my employees think of me, what the numbers are saying on a sheet, what my investors are calling me about, what my board thinks of me or how I'm doing things. My significance is already wrapped up and it's already sealed. So then I can show up free every day, not needing to serve all those lesser things, hoping that they serve me. I can kind of show up and be a better leader because I'm not dependent on all those different things. I'm dependent on something that's outside of that construct. And that's actual freedom.
Yeah.
So then I'm free from those constructs to find my significance. So yeah, I would say today, leading from that, and that probably is what enables me to protect my vacation days because I'm not defining my significance by what I'm doing. So no, time off. Like not I, that doesn't define who I am. My significance is wrapped up somewhere else. There's no need to strive. There's no need to assert myself, to push myself out in front, to make sure everyone knows I'm the lead pastor, to make sure everyone knows I'm the leader in the room. I can show up in a room and not say a word, and I'm fine because it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
My significance is found in the cross. So again, that's not going to be applicable to all leaders because some haven't decided to find hope in Christ in that way. But if you're a leader that finds yourself exhausted, burnt out because you're trying to find your significance there, I'd encourage you to consider the things, the words and ways of Jesus and how it might apply to your leadership.
Matt, so good, man. And the way that I'd love to put a bow on this is thinking about your profession is your current assignment. I was just talking to some leaders the other day about how like this is just you're just on a project, bro. This is just a project you're working on. It's a cute little project, right? And it's an experiment. And what happens with experiments? Sometimes they succeed, sometimes they fail, right?
Most
And you
times
think
they
about
fail.
the right, you think about the iconic story of the light bulb, and it's like, oh well, could have been like, look at me, I'm a failure. He's like, no, this experiment failed. Try another experiment, right? And iteration 175, whatever the heck it was,
Yeah.
right? Light bulb, we have
Yeah.
light, whatever. But it's just
Mhm.
has nothing like that's just your assignment. And don't get it
Mhm.
twisted, assignment
Mhm.
with identity, right? You're talking about
Mhm.
identity in Christ. And you said bread, it's beautiful, right? This is where I get my sustenance. This is where I get my
Mhm.
food. This is where I get
Mhm.
my nourishment. It's not from this
Mhm.
project. Project, assignment, those change, those succeed, those fail, still the same person.
Mhm.
We were just talking about projects before this call. It's like, certain things. You're at your hands at the plow and it's freaking annoying. And it's maybe gonna
Yeah.
work, maybe it doesn't. I don't know, right?
Yeah.
But that's not who you are. And you don't find your identity in what you do. And this is why a lot of founders will sell their business and then they go crazy. They do
Mhm.
stupid things. Why? Because
Mhm.
they're like, I don't know who I am anymore. I'm like, what are you
Mhm.
talking about? That's not who you are.
Mhm.
That was just an experiment or a project and it succeeded and somebody bought it. Great. But it's
Mhm.
not you. It's not who you are. You're still
Mm.
the same, like Matt at home, Matt at work, same Matt. And some of us
Yep.
have the luxury of being like you, where you're like, I don't really put a mask on. I'm just same guy on stage, same guy eating cereal at the dinner table. I'm the same guy,
Mhm.
right? Aren't a
Mhm.
whole lot of people like that, unfortunately. Why? Because their identity's wrapped up in
That's
what they
right.
do, and they got to put a mask on, and they
That's
got to
it.
puff up, and they be like, "Hey, dude, did you know I'm the lead pastor? Did you know that? Neon sign, me. Look at me. This is me." Why? Why do they need that? Because they're insecure. They're not secure in their identity. No.
No, it's so important, and it's so important for the long term, and that's why I think I know Scripture talks about the Lord working in seasons and things like that, but it doesn't mean that we have to live in seasons. I mean, that's kind of my perspective. It's kind of like, I mean, there's things come up at different times, but if we can just look at life knowing it's like this, then we can look at the things we need to have to kind of maintain uh, our leadership through all seasons. But I think, and that means that then I can't get the defining moments of my identity in seasons either. I have to have something that sustains me every single day. And so
Yeah.
if Christ is the one that sustains me every single day, then whatever, seasons come and go. They can be what they are. It's not going to change who I am and the quality of life I have because I've made Christ the thing that sustains me.
Yeah. Because the God of the mountain is the God of the valley,
That's right. And I
right?
think we
So if
always
that,
go, okay, well, now I'm meeting the God of the mountain and now I'm meeting the God of the valley. No, it's just saying that in your life, there's going to be mountains and valleys. He's there all the time. So that means I don't have to wait for a mountain and wait for a valley. It's just life. And he's there no matter what. So
yes.
even the mountaintop's about me. It's not about him. He's the same God on the mountaintop. The valley's about me. It's not about him. He's the same God in the valley. So that means I can get a baseline where he's just with me, regardless of what I'm in. He's just there. But I think too often people go like, no, 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 he's different up here, then he's different down here. And it's like, when's my next mountaintop? I don't know. Heaven? That might be the next one. So like if you're waiting for that, it's gonna be pretty miserable couple decades getting there. So yeah.
Yes. Yes. This is why I've been calling it the stupidest prayer ever. When I used to say it, they pray, I'm like, oh God, we just want you to show up. We just want you to
Yeah.
speak. And it's like,
Yeah.
wait, bro, hold on.
Yeah.
Dude's
Yeah.
always here. God's always
Yeah.
here.
I think he's praying that over you right now. I think he's going, when is he gonna show up and when is he gonna
Yeah.
shut up long enough for me to show him that I'm right with him? Yeah.
Yes. 100%. 100%. Matt, it's been good, man. Thank you.
Yeah, bud.